You know, it's one of the most common things our bodies do, right? We do it when we're tired, we do it when we're bored, sometimes it just hits you for no reason at all. But have you ever actually stopped and wondered, what is really going on when we yawn?
Yeah, let's get right into it. For basically centuries, we all thought we knew the answer. But it turns out modern science has pretty much flipped the whole idea on its head. And trust me, the real reason we yawn is way more fascinating than you'd ever guess.
And get this, it's not just a human thing, not even close. Yawning is this ancient, deeply wired reflex. You'll see sociable baboons do it, you'll see semi-solitary orangutans do it. Heck, even crocodiles, penguins, and parakeets yawn. The fact that it's found in almost all vertebrates, that right there is our first big clue that yawning is doing something really, really important.
And scientifically speaking, a yawn isn't just, opening your mouth wide. It's a whole coordinated performance. There's a long, slow inhale, a brief peak where everything's stretched, and then a quick exhale. And once that sequence starts, it's almost impossible to stop, which tells us it's being controlled by the most ancient automatic parts of our brain.
Okay, so first things first. Let's tackle the biggest myth of them all. You know the one. It's probably what you were taught back in school.
Right. This is what behavioral biologist Andrew Gallup hears constantly. And it makes sense, doesn't it? A yawn is a giant, deep breath, so it's got to be about getting more oxygen into our lungs, right?
Well, here's the twist. While that idea feels totally logical, it's been put to the test, and it's just plain false. The science on this is actually crystal clear. So let's look at how they figured this out.
The case against the oxygen theory is pretty much airtight. Way back in the 80s, scientists did these studies where they had people breathe different kinds of air. Giving them pure oxygen didn't stop the yawning. Giving them air with extra carbon dioxide didn't make them yawn more. And then there's this. Fetuses yawn all the time in the womb, but they get their oxygen from the umbilical cord, not from breathing air. And just think about it. When you exercise really hard, your breathing rate skyrockets to get more oxygen. But that doesn't make you yawn, does it?
So, if it's not about oxygen, what on earth is going on? Well, the leading theory today is actually way, way cooler. And I mean that literally.
So, the best way to wrap your head around this is to picture your brain as this incredible supercomputer. It's buzzing with activity, firing off neurons, and all that work generates a ton of heat. And just like any high-tech computer, if it gets too hot, it needs a cooling system to work properly.
So a yawn basically acts like a radiator for your brain. Here's how it works. First, that massive stretch of your jaw muscles jacks up the blood flow to your head. Then, you suck in a deep breath of cooler outside air. That air flows over the moist surfaces in your nose and mouth, which chills the blood vessels right there. And finally, that freshly cooled blood gets pumped right up to your brain, bringing its temperature down.
And there's some really clever evidence for this. Researchers actually found that how often we yawn changes with the temperature of the air around us. We yawn the most when it's kind of warm outside, perfect conditions for our brains to get a little overheated. But when it gets super hot out, we actually yawn less, because breathing in hot air wouldn't do any good. It can't provide that cooling effect. Pretty smart, right? Okay, but brain cooling doesn't quite explain one of the weirdest things about yawning. Its strange, almost magical social power.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say some of you have probably yawned already just by watching this. We all know that feeling, right? You see someone yawn, you hear someone yawn, you even just read the word yawn, and suddenly you've got this unstoppable urge to do it yourself.
And that brings us to the next big question. If yawning is mainly for cooling your own brain, why in the world would it spread through a room like wildfire?
So here's a really interesting take from Andrew Gallup. He suggests that contagious yawning might not have its own special function. Instead, it could just be a side effect of having a really advanced, socially wired brain.
The biggest theories tie it directly to empathy. It's thought that the same parts of our brain that help us feel what other people are feeling, our mirror neuron system, light up when we see a yawn, and that makes us do one too. But it might also be a way to get a whole group on the same page. That 2021 lion study was incredible. It showed that if one lion yawns and gets up, the other lions that also yawned are much more likely to get up and move with it. For a group of monkeys, it might be a signal to snap to attention and get the whole troop more vigilant.
So we've got brain cooling and we've got social synchronization. But believe it or not, there's a third major piece to this puzzle that kind of ties it all together. Yawning might just be your brain's biological reset button.
This is known as the Arousal Change Theory. And the core idea is simple.
A yawn is a physical mechanism that helps our brain switch gears. Think shifting from sleepy to awake, from bored to focused, or from relaxed to ready for action.
This totally explains why you might start yawning when you're bored stiff in a long meeting. Your brain is just kind of idling in its default mode. That's the daydreaming and mind-wandering network. The yawn acts like a neurological kick in the pants, helping you shift over to your attentional network so you can actually focus on what's happening.
And just a quick note, while yawning is totally normal, if you find yourself yawning excessively, and the medical world sometimes defines that as more than 3 times in 15 minutes without an obvious reason, it can be a sign of an underlying medical issue, usually something affecting the brain's temperature or arousal systems. It's rare, but something to be aware of.
So, after all that, busting old myths and exploring some really cool cutting-edge science, what's the final verdict? What is this ancient reflex all about?
Well, it seems a yawn isn't just one thing. It's like a Swiss Army knife for your brain. It's a personal radiator, keeping that supercomputer cool. It's a neurological reset button, helping you switch from one mental state to another. And it's a powerful social signal that keeps us connected as a group.
So, the next time you feel that deep urge to yawn, don't just think of it as a sign that you're tired or bored. Think of it for what it truly is. This brilliant, ancient piece of biological engineering, fine-tuned over millions of years, working quietly in the background to keep you sharp, cool, and connected to those around you.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we were this wrong for this long about something as simple as a yawn, what other amazing biological secrets are just hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to figure them out?